My name is Sarah, and for 8 beautiful years, I thought I had the kind of marriage most people only dream about. Mark and I met at a charity gala in Seattle. He was charming, ambitious, and had this easy laugh that made everyone in the room gravitate toward him. I was 31 at the time, working as a logistics consultant, a safe, quiet job that let me fade into normal life. No one knew about the 10 years I spent before that. 10 years I had buried deep so I could finally have peace. We got married 6 months later in a small vineyard ceremony just outside the city. Mark used to say I was his safe harbor. I loved hearing that. After everything I'd seen and done in my past, being someone's peace felt like the greatest achievement of my life. We built a beautiful home together in a quiet suburb white kitchen, backyard with string lights, and a reading nook I adored. Mark worked as a senior marketing director at a tech firm. He was the life of every neighborhood barbecue, the guy who remembered everyone's names and always had the perfect toast ready. I supported him through 2 promotions, late nights, and stressful deadlines. In return, he made me feel cherished. He'd bring me coffee in bed on weekends, plan surprise weekend getaways, and tell me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. We even started talking about starting a family. I remember one evening last summer, we were sitting on the porch swing, his arm around me, and he whispered, "I can't wait to see you as a mom, Sarah. You're going to be incredible." My heart felt so full, I thought it might burst. For the first time since leaving the military, I let myself believe I could have a normal, happy life. No more secrets. No more looking over my shoulder. Just us. I had hidden my past so well that even Mark didn't know the full truth. He knew I'd served, I'd told him that much, but I played it down. Just administrative work, I'd say with a gentle smile whenever the topic came up. He never pushed. Why would he? I was his soft-spoken, organized wife who kept the house running and loved him fiercely. That was the version of me I chose to be, the version I thought would keep us safe and happy. But perfect lives have cracks, and mine were about to split wide open. It started small, the way these things always do, so small that I convinced myself I was imagining it. Mark began staying late at the office more often. At first it was just once or twice a week. He'd come home after 9, kiss my forehead, and say the usual, "Big campaign launch coming up, babe. You know how it is." I did know. I'd supported him through plenty of deadlines before, but something felt different this time. His smiles didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. Then there were the phone calls. He started taking them in the garage or out on the back porch, speaking in low tones. When I'd ask who it was, he'd brush it off with just work stuff. One of the new clients is a nightmare. I wanted to believe him. I really did. After everything I'd been through in my military days, I had promised myself I wouldn't become the paranoid, suspicious wife. So I pushed the unease down. The first real crack appeared on a Thursday night. I was folding laundry when his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. He was in the shower, so I glanced at the screen out of habit. The message preview read, "Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again?" It was from someone named Alex. My stomach dropped. But then I saw the next line. "The pitch deck looks killer, man. Team loved it. A client. A male client." I laughed at myself, relieved I was being ridiculous. Mark had never given me a real reason to doubt him. Still, that uneasy feeling lingered like smoke in the air. A few weeks later, we were at a neighborhood dinner party. Someone asked about my past, and Mark jumped in with a laugh. "Sarah? Oh, she did some office work for the Army. Nothing crazy. My wife's too gentle for all that soldier stuff." He said it affectionately, squeezing my shoulder, but The words stung more than they should have. I smiled tightly and changed the subject. Inside, something twisted. Why did he always feel the need to downplay it? Then came the weekend he had to fly to Portland for a last-minute client meeting. He left Friday morning and came back Sunday night looking exhausted. When I hugged him, I caught the faint scent of women's perfume floral. Expensive, nothing like the one I wore. He claimed it was from the woman who sat next to him on the plane. I nodded. I let it go. I told myself I was overthinking, that my past had made me too guarded. Mark was my husband. He loved me. We were trying for a baby. This was just a stressful season at work. Every marriage had them, right? But deep down, a quiet voice I hadn't heard in years started whispering, "Something is wrong." And I chose to ignore it. The night everything shattered started like any other Tuesday. I had made Mark's favorite grilled salmon, roasted asparagus, and garlic mashed potatoes. The house smelled warm and inviting when he walked through the door. But instead of his usual kiss and smells amazing, babe, he barely looked at me. His jaw was tight. He dropped his bag by the door and headed straight for the whiskey cabinet. "Rough day?" I asked gently. He poured himself a double and let out a bitter laugh. "You have no idea." We sat down to eat, but the tension was thick. I tried to make conversation about our weekend plans, but he kept checking his phone under the table. Finally, I reached across and touched his hand. "Mark, talk to me. What's going on?" That's when he snapped. He pulled his hand away sharply. "You want to know what's going on?" "Fine, I'm tired, Sarah, tired of pretending." My heart started racing. Pretending what? He stood up, knocking his chair back. Pretending that this us is enough. Pretending that I married some strong, mysterious woman when you're just ordinary. You sit here playing housewife talking about babies, but let's be real. You were never a soldier, Sarah. You were never anything special. Just some admin clerk who likes to romanticize her past. His words hit like ice water. I sat frozen, staring at the man I loved. The man who once called me his safe harbor. "Mark, why are you saying this?" "Because I met someone who actually excites me," he said coldly. "Someone who doesn't hide behind a boring little life. Her name is Vanessa. She's a creative director on the new campaign. We've been seeing each other for 4 months. 4 months. The room started spinning. I felt like I couldn't breathe. 4 months? He laughed that same laugh he used at parties, except now it was cruel. "Yeah, and unlike you, she actually has stories. Real accomplishments, not whatever fantasy you've built up about being this secret soldier girl." I stood up slowly, my voice shaking. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, please," he sneered. "You were never a soldier. Stop lying to yourself." That was the moment something inside me broke. Not just because of the cheating, not just because of the 4 months of lies, but because the man I had trusted with my heart had taken the one part of my past I kept sacred and used it to humiliate me. I didn't cry. Not then. I simply looked at him and whispered, "Get out." He laughed again, grabbed his keys and left. The front door slammed so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. I stood in our perfect kitchen, surrounded by the dinner I had made for him, and felt my entire world collapse around me. Everything I thought we had was a lie. The days after Mark walked out blurred into a painful haze. I didn't leave the house for nearly a week. I called in sick to work, something I had never done in my entire career. The bed felt too big. The house felt haunted. Every room carried memories: the porch swing where we talked about babies, the kitchen where he used to dance with me while I cooked, the bathroom mirror where he'd kiss my shoulder while I brushed my teeth. I barely ate. I couldn't sleep. At night I would lie awake replaying every moment of our marriage, desperately searching for the clues I had missed. How had I been so blind? How had the man who once looked at me with so much love turned into someone who could laugh in my face and call my past a fantasy? The worst part wasn't even the affair. It was the way he had weaponized my hidden truth against me. I had buried my military years to protect our normal life, the deployments, the dangerous missions, the medals I never displayed. I gave up that part of myself so I could be the woman he wanted. And in return, he mocked the very thing I had sacrificed. I started doubting everything about myself. Was I boring? Had I become too soft, too quiet? Had I lost the strong woman I used to be? The mirror showed a hollow version of me, red eyes, messy hair, wearing the same hoodie for 3 days straight. I felt pathetic. This wasn't the Sarah who had once led extraction teams under fire. This was just a heartbroken wife who had been discarded. My best friend Rachel came over on day 5. She found me sitting on the bedroom floor surrounded by old photo albums. When I told her what happened, she held me while I finally cried deep, ugly sobs that felt like they would never stop. "You gave him everything," she whispered, "and he threw it back in your face." I nodded, but inside I felt ashamed. Ashamed that I had ignored the warning signs. Ashamed that I had hidden who I really was. Ashamed that after all my training, all my discipline, I had let love make me weak. The isolation was crushing. Mark didn't call. He didn't text. Just radio silence, like 8 years of marriage could be erased that easily. I heard through a mutual friend that he had already moved some of his things into Vanessa's apartment downtown. I was alone. Truly alone. In the darkest moment of that week, I sat on the porch swing by myself at 2 a.m., wrapped in a blanket, staring at the string lights we had hung together. I whispered to the empty night, "Who am I now?" And for the first time in years, the old Sarah the soldier stirred somewhere deep inside me. She was angry. It happened on a rainy Thursday afternoon, 2 weeks after Mark left. I was finally forcing myself to clean out his side of the closet when I found it an old metal lockbox tucked behind his winter coats. I almost didn't open it. Part of me wanted to just throw it away and move on. But something made me pry it open with a screwdriver. Inside were papers, old photos, and a USB drive. My hands trembled as I opened the first envelope. They were printed screenshots of messages between Mark and Vanessa. Dozens of them. The things he wrote to her made my stomach turn, how he complained about our boring sex life. How he said I was safe but not exciting. And worst of all, how he bragged that he was with a real woman now. I was about to close the box when I noticed a yellow envelope at the bottom. My name was written on it in Mark's handwriting. Inside was a single photograph. The moment I saw it, my blood ran cold. It was me, 10 years younger, standing in full combat gear beside my Special Forces team after a successful hostage rescue operation in the Middle East. I was the only woman in the photo. My face was serious, dirt-streaked, but proud. On my chest were medals that told stories I had never shared with Mark. But that wasn't the worst part. Paper-clipped to the photo was a printed email from 3 months ago. From Mark to a private investigator. Find out everything about my wife's military past. I need proof she's exaggerating. I want to know if she's lying to me. He had been investigating me. While sleeping with another woman, while mocking me, he had paid someone to dig into the life I had chosen to keep private, not out of love, but to use it against me. The final twist hit me like a freight train when I opened the USB drive on my laptop. It contained a folder labeled Divorce Strategy. Inside were notes. Mark had been planning to leave me for months. He wanted to paint me as unstable and delusional in court, claiming I had fabricated my military service to make myself seem more interesting. He was going to use my hidden past to take the house, ruin my reputation, and walk away clean. Everything suddenly made sense. The late nights, the cruel jokes, the way he pushed me to downplay my service. He wasn't just cheating. He was preparing to destroy me. I sat on the bedroom floor surrounded by the evidence, the photo still in my hand, and felt something shift violently inside me. The woman I had buried, the soldier, the leader, the survivor, woke up completely. Mark didn't just betray my love. He betrayed the wrong woman. For the first time in weeks, I stopped crying. Something cold and clear settled over me, the same focused calm I used to feel before high-stakes missions. The soldier I had buried for love was now fully awake, and she was done being quiet. I called Rachel that same night. "I need your help," I said. My voice was steady for the first time since the betrayal. She came over immediately, and together we went through every piece of evidence in that lockbox. We documented everything with timestamps and screenshots. I also reached out to an old military contact, Captain Reyes, someone I had served with and trusted completely. Within 48 hours, I had my full service records declassified and sent to me. The real ones, not the watered-down version I had shared with Mark. I printed the mission reports, commendations, and photos, including the one he had tried to use against me. I also quietly hired a forensic accountant and a private investigator of my own. I wasn't going to scream or make a scene. I was going to be strategic. Over the next 3 weeks, I transformed. I started training again, early morning runs, strength sessions, and tactical drills in the backyard. I updated my resume with my real experience. I met with a powerful divorce attorney who specialized in high-conflict cases. Most importantly, I began recording every single interaction with Mark. He finally came back to the house one evening to talk like adults. He walked in acting cocky, like he expected me to beg him to stay. "I made a mistake," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "Vanessa was just a distraction. We can fix this." I looked at him calmly and asked, "Do you really think I was just an admin clerk?" He laughed, that same mocking laugh. "Come on, Sarah. We both know you weren't some elite soldier. Stop playing pretend." I didn't argue. I just smiled, because by then I already had everything I needed. I had copies of his messages to Vanessa, financial records showing him hiding money, the investigator's report he paid for, and most importantly, clear proof of who I actually was. I spent every night carefully building my case. No emotion, just cold, professional preparation. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt strong again, powerful, in control. Mark thought he had married a soft, quiet housewife. He was about to meet the woman he never knew existed. The confrontation happened at Mark's company's annual gala, the same type of event where we had first met years ago. I walked in wearing a sleek black dress, my posture straight, my eyes clear. I hadn't told him I was coming. When he saw me across the room, his face went pale. Vanessa was standing beside him in a tight red dress, her hand on his arm. I walked straight up to them. "Sarah?" Mark stammered, forcing a smile. "What are you doing here?" "I came to give you something," I said calmly. Before he could respond, I handed him a thick folder. On the front, I had printed the photo, the one of me with my Special Forces team. His eyes widened as he opened it. The color drained from his face as he flipped through the pages. My real service records, mission citations, the investigator's report he had paid for, and printed screenshots of every disgusting message he had sent to Vanessa. The people around us started to notice. Colleagues, his boss, Friends, you called me a liar, I said, my voice steady but loud enough for those nearby to hear. You told me I was never a soldier, that I was ordinary, that I had nothing special to offer, all while you were sleeping with her and planning to destroy me in divorce court. Vanessa stepped back, looking shocked. Mark's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I continued, You wanted proof? Here it is, 10 years of service, 2 deployments, leadership in classified operations. While you were making marketing slides, I was leading teams in active combat zones. And you thought you could humiliate me? Whispers spread through the crowd. Phones started coming out. Mark's boss, Mr. Hargrove, stepped forward. Mark, is this true? Mark tried to recover. This is private. Sarah, you're embarrassing yourself. No, I cut him off. You embarrassed me. You betrayed me. You tried to erase who I am so you could justify cheating on me. But I'm done hiding. I looked at Vanessa. He told you I was boring, right? That I had no stories? Ask him about the real reason he was investigating me. Security quietly escorted Mark out after his boss pulled him aside. I could see the panic in his eyes as years of carefully built reputation began to crumble in real time. As I walked away, Mark called after me, his voice cracking. Sarah, wait. We can still fix this. I didn't even turn around. For the first time in our marriage, I left him standing there, humiliated, exposed, and completely alone. The weeks that followed were a strange mixture of chaos and peace. Mark's company launched an internal investigation. He was quietly let go 2 weeks after the gala. The divorce moved quickly once my attorney presented all the evidence, the hidden assets, the affair, and the documented emotional abuse. I kept the house. He had to pay a significant settlement. More importantly, he lost the respect of nearly everyone in our social and professional circles. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The quiet satisfaction of watching the consequences unfold was enough. For the first time in years, I started telling my real story. I joined a veteran support group. I began mentoring young women who wanted to enter the military. Slowly, I let the strong, capable version of myself breathe again in the light. Rachel stayed by my side through it all. She helped me repaint the living room, turning the space that once felt haunted into something that was truly mine. I took down the couple's photos and replaced them with pictures from my service days' images I was finally proud to display. There were still hard nights. Nights when I missed the version of Mark I thought I knew. Nights when I questioned if I had been enough. But every time those doubts crept in, I would look at that photo, the one that started everything, and remember who I really was. I had spent 8 years shrinking myself to fit into the life Mark wanted. Now I was expanding back into the woman I was always meant to be. 6 months after the showdown, I stood in my backyard under the same string lights, this time surrounded by a small group of close friends and fellow veterans. I was hosting a simple barbecue, nothing fancy, just good food and real conversation. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. I had survived betrayal. I had reclaimed my truth. And I had done it with dignity and intelligence. Looking back, I realized the greatest betrayal wasn't just Mark's affair or his cruel words. It was that I had betrayed myself first by hiding who I was to keep someone else comfortable. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Never make yourself smaller to fit into someone else's life. The right person will love every version of you, the soft and the strong, the quiet and the powerful. I'm Sarah. I was a soldier. I am a survivor. And I am finally, completely free. Thank you for listening to my story.